Greetings in the love and light of the one infinite creator. I'm Andrii Zvorygin, joined here with Ed, Fred, Dan, and Adam, and we will be discussing the space pirates, as that's something that people have been interested in. Okay, so who wants to volunteer to read the first passage? Dan? How about you?
Okay, yes. All right.
Can you see it on the screen? 2003? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
So I'll read everything. Okay.
Oh, well, you just read the first one, or say the first three. Let's read this first.
Okay, I'll start off.
Okay.
2003/0206, that text, 9.
Don't worry, you don't have to read that part.
All right. Okay. Consequently, there was an inborn tendency towards aggression which had only been encouraged by the second wave of genetic manipulation. This set the stage for entities we shall grandly call the space pirates. The space pirates were, in these entities' way of describing them, from the fifth density, and they had many minions from the fourth density, but these densities being in the negative sense a very pure path along the path of service to self. The goal of these space pirates is simply to achieve a inaudible so that third density cycles come and third density cycles go, and there is either a very small harvest or no harvest at all. Most of the harvest, therefore, being that which this instrument might call spent energy or entropy, except that it has to do with the burden of sorrow, grief, suffering, and pain of those who have not made the harvest. This began the cycle in Atlantis and has moved through its complete cycle at this time. In all three cycles, then, there has been almost no harvest, and as your peoples approach the end of this present cycle of time, which is the final opportunity for harvest within this particular planetary third density, the energies of Atlantis remain. There had been incarnations of groups of entities which first did the bidding of these space pirates in Atlantis. Not yet once, but as the gazing eye looks at history, this group can be found again and again, within those of Babylonia, within those of Rome, within those of Germany, within those of Germany once again, and now within that which is the United States.
All right. Great. So, any questions or discussions about that? Does it make sense? Or if you guys want, we can look at the session for more context if you want. But basically, these are the warmongering energies, if you will. They're the warmongering space pirates. And so if you, in terms of Babylonia, I guess that may not be as, we don't have as much history about them. But they did have their ziggurats where they did their human sacrifices, just like in Mexico and all that stuff. And that's why Abraham tried to human sacrifice his child, because he was from Ur. He was from Babylon, where this was just common practice. And he's like, well, I got to sacrifice something on top of a hill because that's what everyone would do. But there was a bull to save Isaac from being a human sacrifice. Anyhow, but then there was Rome. And as you know, Rome was extremely militant. And they kept expanding and, conquering different things and subjugating different places. And so they had a large amount of war. Eventually, because they ran out of trees, they collapsed. And because even if they conquered Germany, it was just too far to bring the trees all the way to Italy. And then, so within Germany, Germany has had a lot of problems, and Nazi Germany was a big one. They also did those. And now within the United States, and this was in 2003, and so they did the Iraq War. and they destroyed Libya, even though they were like one of the most peaceful and prosperous nations in all of Africa. And they completely obliterated it. Now it's a slave society. Very, very terrible. And, you know, they destroyed Yemen and Afghanistan, you know, and all that stuff. So it's just kind of increasing the amount of fear. And that's what they're doing. And I feel like those energies have also taken root in Ukraine and the EU now. Possibly some of Russia as well. Okay. Should we read on then? Or unless you guys have some comments? No? Okay.
Go
ahead.
Where's this channeling from?
This is from 2003-02-06. So here.
Is this like Ra or?
No, it's Kuo, I believe. Here.
Oh wow.
Space Pirates. So let's see. It was Kuo. Carla channeling. So that's as authoritative as it gets.
Now these are thought forms, correct?
No. These are fifth density entities, and they have many minions from the fourth density. Here, this was a paragraph that we missed. Here, Dan, did you want to read it?
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's easier like this too.
Oh, okay, sure.
It was discovered that if these entities used those with a hunger for power to encourage and hone their appetite for power and domination, these entities in turn would do their best through the processes of aggression and war to conquer and control that which was seen as desirable, whether it be geography, position, money, or power. And these entities found, perhaps due to the limitations of your human imagination, perhaps to the limitations of the imagination of the fourth density minions, that their greatest tool was the very blunt instrument of war, and consequently, when the forces that learn their trade within the culture that this instrument calls Atlantis, whenever these entities show up, their plan is always to encourage division, strife, and if possible at all, the largest war available.
So, for example, Zelensky said that he will step down if Ukraine joins NATO. So if he creates the biggest war possible, then that would satisfy the space pirates enough that he'd be able to stop being their vessel. Okay, go ahead. Oh, yeah, that you did this. I believe you can continue reading, Dan.
Okay. For this in turn subverts the energies of youth and maturity towards the entrainment of conscious thought processes until entities move into that space within their minds where they believe and accept as true the necessity of war, the rightness of the native land's authority figures, and the real and genuine desire to make the world a better place through rearranging the geography, the people, and notable power in a way which keeps those in power in even more power, and simply enslaves the attitudes of the minds of all those who follow them into furnishing the physical vehicles that march off to the war, and by their dying, their suffering, and their injustice thereby spread the suffering, the pain, and those other negative emotions ever higher, ever more violently, ever at a greater level.
Exactly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So is that why, how can I ask this? You know, my brain, is that why we revere going to see graves at a war cemetery, like a military cemetery?
In America? You guys revere
Anywhere.
that? No, it doesn't happen in Canada, believe me.
Well,
it only happens in war cultures. Like America, maybe Russia.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Someone asked me one time, you know, where's places in the world you'd want to visit? And one of the places I really, really would want to go one day would be the Philippines. I want to go to Manila. And she asked me, she's like, "Oh, you know what? Well, why here? Why there?" And I told her, and she's like, "Why Manila? Like, the Philippines is beautiful. You could go anywhere, but why would you go to freaking Manila?" And I said, "Well, the United States Armed Forces Cemetery is there, and no one has ever seen my Uncle Joe's grave in my family."
Okay, well, that's a personal sentiment.
So yes. I just have this thing where if I go to that part of the world, I'm stopping in Manila to visit the United States Armed Service Cemetery to pay my respects to my uncle's grave.
Okay, well that's visiting your relative's grave. That's not necessarily a military thing.
But I also, at the same time, she lives in Colorado, and I said the only place in Colorado I'd ever want to visit is Ludlow. And she's like, "Why in the hell would you want to go to Ludlow, Colorado? She's like, "I'm 10 minutes from Ludlow. It's a cesspool. It's a dark, dungeony, depressive area." And I said, "Yeah, it's all closed up coal mines, ain't it?" And she goes, "Yeah." I said, "That's why I want to go there, because of the Ludlow massacre of 1914. No one knows about it. It needs to be, so everybody needs to know about that, and in Canada too, because Rockefellers and Cafaros did lumber and everything in Canada. They got lots of trees from Canada, but things like that happen, and people need to know about it." And she thought it was odd. She's like, "Why would you want to visit a place where people were murdered?" I'm like,
"Yeah, that doesn't make any sense."
But it's historical. I want to visit battlefields.
You do?
Yes.
I think this may be your pre-incarnative choice. I don't know anyone else. Does anyone else like to do this stuff?
But does it have anything to do with the energy that the space pirate, the space pirate energy transfer that we're talking about here? Does my desire for that have anything to do with the balancing of that energy theft that took place?
Well, maybe with the balance,
because I can go to a battle, dude. I will cry.
Didn't you say that you remember like falling off a ship or something, and it was during a war in your previous incarnation?
No, I think I was violently ejected through the side of the hull of the ship into the ocean.
Well, that's what I mean. Well, you were in a war, basically. I think that you're doing reparations for your previous incarnation as a soldier, and that's why you want to respect all of these people who died in massacres, because you were a party to creating such massacres by being a soldier. I think that's a personal karmic balancing,
Gotcha.
yeah. So whereas, I mean, other people, like we haven't had anyone else with similar interests here, and I haven't heard anyone else like that. But so I think that's personal. I think that in terms of the space pirates energy, it has more to do with what we were reading here before, with leaders who want power, and money, and things like that. All of the things. So let's look at Zelensky, for example, and he has amassed a large amount of money and a large amount of power. He is at the pinnacle peak of his power because of this war. He has absolute control over the lives of people in Ukraine. He gets to kill anyone he wants, arrest anyone he wants. Nobody has any objections. Anyone has any objections, they go to prison. So he has as much power as possible. The whole of Europe is financing everything he's doing. So that's why he's doing it. He's getting this power. And then the fourth density minions and the fifth density entities, what they're getting out of it is they're feeding off of the pain and the suffering of those soldiers who are dying, who are missing their limbs, their families who are broken, all of those tears, all of that suffering. that to them is their joy. You know, they're feeding off of those energies, and because they're creating these, you know, experiences, which I guess are furthering for the creator in experiencing itself. So they have their own mission, and kind of their mission is to give an opportunity for the people in the sinkhole of the indifference to continue the sinkhole of indifference. So it's kind of like we have three, you know, three groups. We've got the Orion group for the service to self, and we've got the Confederation of Planets for the service to others, who's representing the sinkhole of indifference, the space pirates. The space pirates are representing the sinkhole of indifference and all of the people who don't want to choose service to others or service to self. They want to have the middle ground, if you will. And so they're the ones promoting the war. But yeah. Hopefully it will come to an end, and the Earth has ascended to fourth density, service to others, and then the Nostradamus prophecies say that it's quite possible that these energies, space pirate energies, will come to a head in 2029, by 2029, and after that, there may be a cataclysm of sorts, but after that, we should be clear. People will be like, okay, enough of the warmongering. Just like after World War II, people came together all around the world and were like, hey, we're done with war. And then they made the United Declaration of Human Rights, and they made all of those human rights treaties. And now we've had a couple generations, and, you know, the boomers have never been in a war. And so they're like, let's go send our children off to die.
Well, maybe not in Canada, but in the United States, we've never not been in a stinking war.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I meant in Europe. But yeah.
But
yeah. All right. Fair enough. Well, because those space pirate energies, just like the Confederation is always here, and the Orion is kind of always here, but, you know, they're really fading. But the space pirates, they're very strongly here. So after Nazi Germany got sucked out, the US was like, hey, let's take all of these German scientists and make them the heads of our various military divisions. And so the space pirate energies just went over to the US
and Argentina.
But the US had more power, and so they've just become entrenched. And so since World War II ended,
the United
US
States
has just been doing
the United States and Britain instilled all of those Nazi scientists in Argentina. They built that town for them.
I believe it.
Did you see the Freedom of Information stuff that the Argentinian president released?
No, I didn't. What did it say?
That they fully admitted knowing and aiding and abetting Hitler getting transferred in 1945 to Argentina. I think they said he died in 1963.
Wow.
He had 2 daughters. There's all the documents to it. And all of his scientists and the quite a few of the people that moved to Argentina, it named names of the CIA operatives that helped them and the British operatives that helped them.
Yeah, I totally.
They found Hitler's private U-boat scuttled just off the shores of Argentina like a little while ago.
Yeah, they did do that too.
Yeah. Well, Grok claims that those are Hitler escape. Some falsely claim CIA confirmed Hitler's escape based on Argentine declassification. Misrepresent the documents, which focus on Nazi fugitives like Eichen and Mayhill, not Hitler. Okay. Remains speculative, unsupported by primary. But yeah. I don't know.
Interesting.
But yes, they did do it for a lot of people. That's for sure.
But what you were saying about 2029, after World War II, and not many people talk about this. Japan basically, the emperor, once he decided that it was over, it was the emperor that made the decision that, hey, this is enough. We have, the Allies are doing this island hopping campaign. The Americans just started dropping these weird bombs on our cities and killing 100,000 people at a time. And now the Russians are coming. It's enough. We're done. So he called it off in August. Well, after that, he declared the end to imperialism. The whole concept of imperialism was now like, if you discussed imperial, you might as well be discussing, complete mutiny or treason.
Mm-hmm.
So they're one of the most peace-loving countries, I think, in the world.
Who, Japan?
Now, I would say so.
Well, Japan has anger issues towards China.
Do you blame them? Read the history books. Look at the way the Japanese were treated by the Chinese and the way the Russians were treated by the Chinese. You know how the Russians were treated by the Chinese? Russo-Japan War in 1903.
No, I'm not familiar, actually.
They were brutal. Brutal. And the Russians were no less brutal back. Granted,
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, Russia gained a lot of territory from China.
And the Japanese, I'm sure, were no less brutal to them. But
the Chinese have never invaded Japan. It's Japan that invaded China.
Well, that's debatable, because where at one point did China end and Japan begin? In the beginning,
that's Japan is a set of islands. It had nothing to do with the mainland,
right? But there was other things going on, I think, with trade and
China tried to invade Japan once or twice, but their entire fleet got obliterated due to natural catastrophes multiple times, and they were like, "Okay, that's enough of that." So they never even stepped foot on Japan's soil.
Well,
so there's really no reason, in my mind, for the Japanese to be upset with the Chinese. And in any case, they should be following service to others and Avalokiteshvara of compassion, and love for all beings. So that's what I'm saying. That there's no excuse for anyone in the world to have any resentment or anger towards anyone if they're on the service to others path.
Right. But I think that's closer to where they are now. That you're talking about prior to World War II, though.
No, I'm talking about now.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, the Japanese have a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment.
Oh, well, I mean, can't control other people's...
I know. I'm just saying that they're not the most peace-loving people. The Tecopians are the most peace-loving people I know of.
Oh, okay. Who are they?
The Tecopians, they live on an island here of Tecopia. And here, I don't know if there's Tecopians. But
let's all sell everything we own. We'll buy a piece of land in Tecopia and start a cult.
You can't buy a piece of land in Tecopia. Basically, they're a remote island, and it's several days sail, and you can't fly there. There's no other way of getting there. You have to sail there. It's several days, and then you land. As long as it's outside of Lent, they will usually show up and start singing and dancing for you. Because every day of the year, other than during the 40 days of Lent, they are singing nonstop. Praises to God, some lamentations, but basically just singing, and they have food forests, and they're just like really peaceful people. And then so they have 3 villages there and 3 chiefs. and then instead of having war with each other, they have dance-offs and sing-offs. And then whoever sings the loudest gets to be the chief village for the year. So, they are a very peaceful people, is what I'm saying. They're an example for the rest of the world.
They probably don't have anything on the damn island to make a weapon with.
They have sticks. They make spears. They have spear throwing competitions. They had wars in the past, but eventually they came to realize we're on this small island. Let's stop killing each other. Actually, well, Christianity came along, and so they're all devoted Catholics or some kind of Christian anyways. They all go to church on Sunday, and they all observe Lent and all those things. So they've kind of mended their ways. They no longer do like they used to have do post-birth abortions because they were very limited in land, and now they just export people when they have too many people, because the island is so small they can only support 1,000 people. Like they can only feed them, otherwise they would go hungry.
Post-birth abortions. That's
yes.
A bit dark, dude.
Yeah. Well, like the Vikings and the and the Spartans and stuff like that. Yeah. Or they would practice different contraception, like pulling out and stuff like that. The Catholics told them not to do it, and then their population got to 1,500, and everyone was getting really thin and starving, and they're like, that's not going to work for us. We can't not do some contraception or whatever. So they have to export a bunch of people, and nobody wants to leave. And so they have to do these kinds of, okay, you several hundred, you go for a few months, okay, you stay over there, and then we'll do a rotation because everyone loves the island so much.
So where's this island at?
It's in the Pacific Ocean here.
What's the highest elevation?
Wait a second, right? Why don't they just like expel all the people that are rubbish dancers and singers?
I don't know if they can do that, because that would be like the old and the ones that are too young. I don't know. Anyway, so here it is. You see where the mouse cursor is? There, that tiny little island.
Oh yeah, I was there.
You were in Tekopia?
No.
Oh, in this vicinity, you mean?
Not in this life cycle.
Oh, Vanuatu. Oh, okay, nice. Not in this, yeah. Anyways,
That's
so
nice.
yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
And it's a high island, so it keeps rising up, and so there's like more land.
That's always one of the things I look at is the elevation on the island, because like Puerto Rico has some pretty high mountain peaks. It could flood 100 foot of water from the ocean, and you'd be fine if you were on Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Well, let's see. The highest elevation is 380 meters.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But they wouldn't be able to support the same population they have now. A lot of the stuff they grow is like at sea level. Or
right. But what I'm saying is, if there was a tidal wave that was 40 foot high, you're not all going to get washed away if you get high enough.
Yeah. They do have their problems with hurricanes, and I have been trying to get someone to bring them those things. The trees that grow in the ocean. What are they called?
Seaweed?
Mangroves.
Oh.
Exactly, mangroves. Because if they get mangroves, that will protect them from the hurricane waves. Because the hurricanes do cause some damage there. So if they have mangroves, they'll be able to expand a little bit more. Maybe have some hammocks.
You have to buy them?
Well, you have to bring them there. They're not just going to float over there on their own. It's too far. So you have to get several species of mangroves seedlings, and then put them on your sailboat and then sail over to this thing and then offer it to the chief and plant them, and and
Don't
then
they
they'll
have
a nice
Amazon?
plant. Amazons? Where?
Timu.
No, they don't have Timu.
Wonder how that would go. Put that in your Amazon cart and
yeah.
next day delivery, or it's free.
Still, there's no drone delivery. Like I said, nobody can land there. There's
yeah. When they fix the next day delivery so that somebody on whatever island that is there can get next day air, get mangrove seedlings dropped from a drone, then I'll be impressed.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, you see, look, this is all beach. This could be mangroves. But yeah, there's nowhere on the island where you can't hear the shore. I mean, you can hear the ocean from everywhere on the island. Yeah. So yeah. Anyways,
like you're in a perpetual gateway meditation.
Yeah. Maybe that's part of it, but I think it's like they basically they've embraced the teachings of Jesus Christ. At least in some way.
Post the name of the island in the chat?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tikopia.
That. So it's like
people are always saying there's no such thing as utopia. Well, there is Tikopia. Yeah.
I'd say I'm a pretty good singer and dancer. I reckon I could probably emigrate. I might speak to them,
It sounds.
I'll win them a dance off or two.
Tikopia sounds like somebody trying to say utopia with a speech impediment.
Yeah. With a speech tick. All right. So let's continue our space pirate discussion. So let's look at the next session. Okay, so you wanted me to look it up. Here, so we could read it in the original. Space pirates. Okay. Peace be with you. Okay, space pirates. Okay. Go ahead. Dan.
We feel that the entity known as Quo has more to speak on at this time regarding these space pirates, as they have been called, and thus we transfer this channel. We thank you, and we consider you to be our allies and equals in this quest towards infinite knowingness. Peace be with you in the light of everlasting love. Carla channeling. Quo. We are known to you as the principle of Quo, and we greet you with great joy through this instrument in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator in whose service we are. We thank the one known as David and the three and honor them, and may we say how much we enjoy working with these energies and how much we feel thankful for the ability to share in the energies of these entities and of each of you. We thank each of you for seeking the truth and not by a passing thought, but by setting aside a significant amount of time, energy, and love to honor the hunger and the thirst within you for that which is true, beautiful, and noble. For indeed, you are experiencing a life in the fire of experience in the foundry, as the three have called it so well. And we would use another name as well, the Athanor, the oven in which the alchemist places a base metal and ennobles it by knowledge of those higher truths which come from higher to lower, from above to below, faithfully to limn the nature of archetype within the fire of the crucible of living at third density incarnation upon you present time lateral of third density as you are experiencing it. This is not what could be called the average nor normal way of ending or the graduation from third third grade, or third density. In the case of many other sublogi, third density's endings have been breached with considerably less difficulty. The so-called space pirates that you now experience as what this instrument would call the Bush Boys have to a fair degree been able to reinvent and recollect many of the tools and many of the subterfuges of past incarnational experiences. And many of the fairly small group of influential American statesmen who are following the Bush Boys are also remembering and feeling comfortable within the structure of support for such ideas as this instrument would describe as tribal and second density in nature, and falling then into a pattern which has indeed placed this particular planet for the last good bit of your experience of time and in density on a local time and space system which is as cut off from the main track as any shunt. The way back onto the track happens at this time to be the graduation of the entities who are ready for harvest from this planet. The challenge for all of those who feel called into service upon a global level at this time is to identify the purpose of incarnation, to identify the best way to pursue this purpose, and thusly to find the peace that lies within the self, which has reckoned with both the situation and believes that it has come to see before it. And the structure of this instrument would say virtue, but we would ask her to pause while we find a more neutral emotional word for the way of the highest and best. This instrument has often been able to use the terms of knighthood, honor and chivalry, courtesy, and that round table feeling of one for all and all for one. The bid you jest for many musketeers of earth at this time is, from the round table of shared experience and concept, to create the fourth density by the way each entity within the round circle lives, moves, thinks, and has its being. This is subtle work, yet each of you is, by this work, moving into the place within your nature for which you sought incarnation. Now, you sought incarnation for several reasons. Many are the tales of suffering that has been spoken within this group to this day, and many are those which have not been spoken. We may say that each within this group has, as this instrument has called it, experience in the school of no. These are all true experiences and excellent in their way. And it is the skillful seeker of spiritual maturity who reckons within these companions of the fire with enough respect and honor to sit with and keep company with these shadows of self, these powerful or troublesome indications that the self indeed has 3 degrees of self to experience.
Okay, let's just pause there because I'm not sure if the rest of this is Space Pirates related. Let me just double check here.
Can you help me with updating my vocabulary?
Go ahead.
Who are the Bush Boys?
The Bush Boys, they were called George W. Bush and George H. Bush.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yes, in more colloquial or more technically precise terminology, they would be called the neocons. Basically, the neocons are a warmongering subsection of the Republicans, who are the ones that promoted, the various wars that happened from the year 2000 to 2015.
Cheney, Rumsfeld, all them.
Yes, exactly. All those. So, yeah, basically that kind of warmongering ideal is exactly what the Space Pirates want.
The people that I worked for quite a few years. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I was on the Bush Cheney re-election campaign in 2004.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. Yeah, we all done things, I guess.
Well,
And
it was really the Republican base is really pushed heavily in a lot of rural religious communities.
yes, yes. Do you live in a swing state?
I'm in Ohio.
Is it a swing state?
Well, it's usually been Republican, but it did go Democrat for Obama, and it went Democrat for
So it's a swing state.
yeah.
Well,
I guess you would call it that.
Yeah, then it would be
If basically if you don't get Ohio, you don't win.
right.
It's kind of that way with certain things.
Well, there you go. That's why they spend so much money there. Yeah. And so here, the main thing here that to focus on is this whole part about a other timeline that we've been shunted off the main track. And so kind of the main track of evolution, of spiritual evolution that is supposed to happen is that we get together and then we learn service to others. Like, say we have a Jesus figure, but instead of executing them and spitting on their grave or whatever and ignoring everything they have to teach, we would actually listen to them and apply it to our lives. And then we would all, with forgiveness, love, and kindness for one another, ascend into fourth density. And that would be the main track. That would be the normal way of doing things. And instead, what's happened with the Atlantis energies is that these kinds of empires rise, and then what happens, instead of turning to compassion for the people and kindness, because that's the only thing that could keep it going, they instead go into greed and fear and just generally creating chaos. And then the whole thing collapses because the politicians were too greedy and mean to allow the civilization to continue through land distribution or tree planting or any kind of sane or compassionate form of governance. And then the whole cycle repeats again. And so we've been kind of stuck without any progress, as it were. If that makes any sense. If you want, I can give you the exact passage that talks about that. No? Okay. But does that make sense, what I'm saying? Yeah. So in the ideal case, we would all, just like, sometimes like in the past, the whole nation rallied around fear around COVID. The whole world rallied around fear. And so that was kind of like a win for the space pirates. Or even to the Orion group. That was one of their last hurrahs. Now, if we have instead people rallying around love and kindness, like happened during the convoy. Remember the Canadian convoy? It was kind of a movement that started in Canada and then spread all around the world, and it ended the COVID thing. And so that was people rallying around love and kindness for one another. And that was such a big threat to the Canadian government that they, enabled the Emergencies Act and then canceled everyone's bank accounts and all that jazz. And so, anyways, but the battle had already been won because it was, a battle fought in the minds and hearts of the people. And so if we get more, or so it's possible that after this next sequence or whatever, we will have another rally of love. And we will, basically it seems like we're getting these rallies of fear and anger, and then they're followed by a rally for love. But we don't need the rallies for fear and anger if we can just focus on that love, and then we can have that natural progression instead of going backwards with everything falling apart. So yeah, there's multiple options for us, if that makes sense. Okay. Okay, did we want to read the next one then, or you guys have any more comments on it? 2012.
So,
can I just say,
oh, yeah,
there's
go
one
ahead,
little
Ed.
bit in there that it said about. Sorry, Dan. Did you want to say something quick first?
No, we haven't heard from you for a while, so I want to hear from you.
Oh, I was just going to say about like the bit there that he said quickly, chucking in a little mention of alchemy. And that word, that old word for crucible forge. I can't remember what the word was.
Athanor.
Athanor.
He said about how the alchemist like takes the teachings from up high, and then like it passes through them into the metal. You know, could that be kind of a little hint of how we're supposed to kind of be communicating with first density entities? That how we're supposed to be kind of taking control of those things, the way that, you know, they've like hinted at here and there in other channelings, like.
So we can look at the particular passage here. Here, another name as well, the Athanor, the oven in which the alchemist places a base metal and ennobles it by knowledge of those higher truths which come from higher to lower, from above to below, faithfully to limit the nature of archetypes within the fire of the crucible of living at third density incarnation upon your present time lateral of third density as you experience it.
So to limn the nature of archetypes would be to make something completely non-dualistic, correct?
Here,
you go into the liminal. The liminal void is the nothingness.
Can you explain this passage? Okay, here. Let's get this. Uses metaphorical language, existential journey of living in third density incarnation, a life in the fire of experience in the foundry. 3 have called it so well. The Athanor is the furnace used by alchemists. The ovens in which the alchemist places in alchemy the base metal like lead symbolizes the unrefined ego-driven self. The alchemist, you, the individual, ennobles it by applying spiritual wisdom and higher truths, like Ed was saying, transforming it into something greater, gold, or an enlightened state. This suggests that life's struggles are opportunities to elevate the consciousness. Knowledge of those higher truths which comes higher to lower, above to below, faithfully to limit the nature of the archetypes. The limit means to depict or illuminate. Archetypes here likely refer to universal patterns or energies, the hero, the shadow, the shape humans experience. The crucible, a vessel for melting substances under extreme heat, is another metaphor for third density life. This suggests that through life's challenges, you come to understand and embody these archetypical energies, gaining deeper insights into your spiritual nature. All right. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah? Okay, cool.
No, but it's okay.
No? Okay, well.
No, this whole thing is a bit too sciencey or too it's not there for me, so it's cool.
Okay, that's fine. Not everything resonates for everybody.
I quite like it. I like the idea that like we are in some way here to kind of learn to communicate with the lower density entities. The same way that I feel that like we're also here to learn to communicate with the higher density entities, like Carla has. You know, and I feel that like it's the same process, like us refining our crystal to be able to get that information from up there should be the same thing as when somebody makes something beautiful out of a metal or makes a specific tool, or, you know, that same idea of our conscious energy should be in that thing. Does that make sense? I don't know. I like it.
Well, this is a long one. Oh, but it's so good. Hold on. Sorry, I was just reading the next passage we're on. Do you guys want to respond to Ed? Nevertheless, the entire gamble. Okay.
I was confused by the term limb.
Lim, it means to illuminate, apparently. All right. Here, Dan. Let's read this.
Nevertheless, the entire gamble of Earth in third density was to see if such a polyglot group of entities could mold themselves into a tribe, with all-embracing planet Earth, all becoming aware of their true situation as regards the need to make a choice of service to others or service to self, and all having a great desire to restore or reconstitute the planet Earth, where there was a group karma, shall we say, to be balanced, as so many entities had been involved actively in previous planets, where by their own choices the planet was damaged, as in the case of Mars, or completely destroyed, as in the case of Maldak. The first, and perhaps the most disastrous of the experiments of rebuilding the tribe of Earth and creating or recreating a level of technology which was well remembered by many entities from previous planetary experiences, was that of Atlantis. In this pattern's outworking, those within Atlantis came to power at a time when their technology had grown sufficiently to offer the opportunity for advanced applications such as crystal technology. These leaders, instead of embracing the ideals of service to others, embrace with what can perhaps be called the path of conditional service. This is a path of service to self, which is overlaid heavily by the rhetoric of service to others. It is a situation which initially was innocent. Those involved did not see that rather than polarizing fully to service to others, there was a good deal of rationalizing and sophistic thinking which justified exceptions to various rules of ethics and which involved infringing upon the free will of entities which were considered less valuable or intelligent than others.
Oh, just hold on. I just wanted to clarify. This is kind of like we can be mean to criminals because they've committed a crime, and so now they're lesser beings. We have that on Earth now as well, or because of their race or whatever. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
This pattern of exclusion and manipulation of entities considered as lesser is the initial point of departure from service to others polarity. Because of these choices, eventually those who had previously created disasters on other planetary spheres created the first disaster upon the spheres of Earth, sinking the continent known as Atlantis. The wise and the clever, that is, those polarized positively and those polarized negatively, managed to remove themselves to other continents in sufficient number that these energies never left your planetary vibration. And if you will examine your written history, you may see a pattern of empire, its building, its maintenance, and its eventual and inevitable destruction played out again and again. Into the pattern of this repetitive, self-destructive behavior among the population of planet Earth came those who were watching for the opportunity to present itself to make use of this lateral. For if entities such as your group are unable to clear the population of your planet from this lateral, there are ways in which the negatively oriented entities have every hope of keeping the time lateral viable. It would no longer be attached to the main track. That opportunity shall soon be closed. Nevertheless, those that believe that they are in the appropriate place for themselves could choose to remain not polarized, either positively or negatively, but simply as those who would remain on third density Earth as it reversed to late second density. These entities would no longer be enlivened by third density entities who have the power of free will that could make the choice of service to self or service to others. They would be instinctual, great ape-type beings who look like you do, because that is the genetic pool that now exists upon planet Earth. However, these entities would simply be slaves of a kind that spent their lives living a life much as you now experience it, a life without a good deal of variety, a life that is not concerned with coming into harmony as a planetary system but is only concerned with the tribe of its family and its clan, with protecting the resources of that family and clan, and of defending that family and clan. What the fifth density entities, which you may call, as this instrument has jokingly done, space pirates, have in mind is simply to have a continuing harvest of food, that food being fear. You may see the creation of an atmosphere of fear in your governmental systems in your present culture. Indeed, we find from this instrument's mind there have been several conversations concerning this precise point recently among those who sit within this circle. The goal, therefore, of those who wish to aid planet Earth at this time is to firstly to express the situation of the choice, without concern for numbers, but only with concern for making an appropriate effort to, as this instrument would say, get the word out globally, to share the information of the Confederation as regards this being the density of choice, and there being yet for making that choice. A secondary effort at this time, but one which will grow increasingly stronger and which will, within the next several of your years, become more important by far than alerting the population of this planet, is the concern for the planet itself. For there are many, many entities upon this planet whose route or road to realization of their true situation involves becoming aware of and responsible to the sad plight of the planet itself, and the fact that your culture and your way of life are gradually destroying the viability of this planet. The desire to change this pattern is a key to the activation of the will to choose in many entities whose energies are unconsciously but deeply involved with connecting with restitution and the energies of stewardship and unconditional love, not so much to the people of the planet as to the planet itself. That is the situation as we know it with the time lateral at this time. It is not a situation that will endure. We would, however, emphasize that there is no serious disturbance that is even possible to be balanced, either of this planet or of the solar system. There is in progress a desperate gamble on the part of negative entities, as we had mentioned before, to attempt to hijack the time lateral. Getting information more globally available is the best means of creating a balance to the situation and makes it impossible for this gamble to work. The best help the negative entities have, however, is not negative entities as much as it is the deep sleep of those who are unawakened at this time. It is to the interest of the negative entities that sleep be continued as untroubled and peaceful as possible. Energies such as your religious bodies and what this instrument calls the religious right, those entities who lean heavily upon dogma and whose teachings are based on fear and judgment, are the leaders of the pack in maintaining the lack of choice among entities who indeed have translated spirituality into religiosity
Religiosity.
in which the concern is simply to belong to the appropriate pack and to be a part of that pack by following blindly any directives given by the leaders of that group. We realize that gazing at this situation, there is the possibility of creating within oneself an easy and seductive anger or even rage. We would encourage each of you to take this entire situation lightly, to let it slide off your back. This is not a burden for you to pick up. This is not something for which you can be responsible or over which you have any control. What you have in your terms of your ability to serve at this time is primarily your own deepening awareness of what it is to choose, what it is to choose so deeply that the rest of your life becomes a joy, what it is to choose so completely that there is no longer the need to spend time questioning whether faith is the answer, whether service is the answer, or whether one particular kind of service is better than one or another, or so forth. When the choice for service to others has been absolute, there is a knowing that comes. It is a knowing that transcends planning. It is a knowing that includes the awareness that you really do not have control over anything but your own desires, your own will, and your own persistence. We ask you, who wish to serve at this time to look at your own self-awareness and self-knowledge, and to be aware and trust completely in the fact that you are part of a web of love. Your work has been effective because you have chosen the very difficult path of working in groups. The energy of the group and the energy of groups of such groups is now that which is challenged to undertake what this instrument has called a new paradigm. What is this new paradigm, you may ask? But it is not for us to answer the question. It is for you. It is certainly not building upon anything. Sorry.
Okay. All right. That's enough for now. Thanks. All right. Thank you, Dan. That was some great reading. All right, guys. So what do you think? Did you get it? The space pirates and the people who are doing the fear and judgment are
I want to expand a little more on this idea of the path of conditional service, how they said it. That's very interesting.
Conditional service, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Service.
Because that seems to describe pretty much most of our society.
Yes. So it's basically like, my understanding of it is that it's where you feel it's like humanism. In humanism, they like to say, oh, all humans are equal. But then they just reclassify someone as a subhuman animal, and then they can do whatever they want with them. It's just like when Thomas Jefferson said all men are created equal, but he had a bunch of slaves. So it's conditional. It's like if they're white or whatever, if they're part of my pack, then I will forgive, love, and accept them. So that's pure yellow ray. But then if they're someone else's pack, someone else's country, someone else, then I'm not going to love them and forgive them unconditionally. And so that's that conditional service, is that conditional love. You're not doing it unconditionally for all beings. That's my understanding of it. Whereas unconditional love, you love people and all of creation because it is God. It has the divine within it. And there is nothing that will stop you from doing that.
It seemed to me more like when I heard it described at first, it didn't sound this way. But once they started differentiating between the spirituality and the religiosity aspects and the dogmatic exotericism that was developed, it seemed like that could also apply to conditional service as being, I'm going to do this good thing because it makes me rise in the levels of hierarchy in my pack in that yellow ray way. It strokes the ego in that yellow ray area. And that's like, it's a facade of STO. It's a facade of STO, but it's not STO. So you're not polarizing STO.
Yes, it's STS. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is yellow ray.
But you're not desiring to polarize STS. You're not doing it to polarize STS.
People don't consciously polarize STS. Like almost all people who are on the service to self track think that they're doing it for the good of everybody, because they feel that to serve themselves is to serve everybody.
That's called a sociopath.
Well, like Mao Zedong, he believed in the reverse golden rule: do unto others what you don't want done to yourself. Or Bill Gates. Bill Gates is another good example. He gives the facade of doing good things, but he's actually, just pursuing depopulation, which he thinks is a good thing. He genuinely thinks it's a good thing, but it's a service to self thing.
Look at Margaret Sanger.
I don't know who that is.
She founded Planned Parenthood in the United States. and was a very avid, outspoken racist and anti-Semitist. And she went to Germany, I think, twice, met with Hitler, and was kind of buddy with him, signed on to his whole cleansing ideals. And she got
Eugenics.
on purpose, because she was very, very racist. She did not like Latino people. She did not like African Americans. She did not like Jewish people. She there was a lot of people she didn't. If you weren't white, she didn't like you. And so when they formulated the idea of Planned Parenthood and family planning, they were promoting the idea of abortion and to maximize ethnic cleansing through the facade of family planning and the right of women to choose, for their own bodies. They placed all, and I mean all, every single, go and Google map in the United States of every Planned Parenthood. Every single one is in a low income, high density population area. Every one. Where all of the minorities live, every one of them, and that's about, I think, 80 something percent of their customer base is minorities.
Yep. And so that's another good example.
Yeah, people don't know that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and one of Bill Gates' dad was on the eugenics board in Planned Parenthood too, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And so it has to do with that whole in-group out-group thing. So if you are in the in-group out-group ideology, then you're in yellow, right? You cannot ascend to fourth density. Fourth density requires heart activation, which is so you are both caring for your spouse and your in-group, but you're also caring for all of creation, caring for everybody on this planet or elsewhere as well. Like, you don't have animosity towards anyone. You have unconditional love to all of God's creation, because opening the heart is, like, especially in a Christian context, it's about, your heart is a throne for God, and then you invite God into your heart, and then you can feel God's unconditional love for all of God's creation, and thus you no longer have anything against anybody, because you feel the love that God has for them. And there's a kind of a magical aspect to it, that it resolves pretty much all diseases, and it resolves a lot of different relationships that have with different people, though service to self entities might be difficult too, but most lost entities can be transformed by it. I guess unless they're heavily polarized by space pirates.
I think in that passage there's a couple of bits there, like the bit where it said about, how we should love the planet, and we should accept, like, loving it as like part of whatever, is like vitally important for us. And and I think the whole kind of idea of opening your heart and unconditional love is something that will happen as kind of egoically we kind of realize more what we are, and there's a bit in there that it said about, like, when you do kind of touch that unconditional feeling and you get that connection to it all, that's kind of, that was what enlightenment is, right? It's that connection to everything, and knowing your place in it all, and not having any kind of doubt, not having any kind of just knowing 100% because you've experienced it.
Yes.
That when you do have that feeling, it's very, very powerful. There's no denying it, no changing it.
Exactly.
I thought all of that was really good.
Yeah, it says what it is to choose so completely there's no longer need to spend time questioning whether faith is the answer, whether service is the answer, or whether one particular kind of service is better than another, and so forth. Yeah, for sure. Like that's like I feel like I'm there. I know I was talking to someone a couple weeks ago, and they're like, how did you know that faith is the the answer? Like, or it's like, like they were like, don't you have doubts about these things? I'm like, no, I don't. Experience it every day. I know the great joy that comes with being of service to others, of having faith in God, and that love and forgiveness is the answer. And it's just such a beautiful thing, and I just see it in my life every day, and just like so many blessings. It's just showers of blessings, like even like when I go to park, like for the last week, whenever I park, either as I'm arriving, there's one of those like where you can just pull right through, and then it's easy to pull out, or after I come back, there's the person who was in front of me has left, and so it's very easy for me to get out. And that's one of those like little blessings, but I love it, and it's obviously God working in my life, and it's happened like 3 times this week, and there's even been instances where like as I'm getting in the car, and then someone is driving up, and then they park somewhere else instead of to leave the road clear for me so that I can get out. So it's amazing how God works.
Most of the time when I feel disappointed, it's because of another human being.
Well, and that's a great...
It's not because of a situation or, this happened or that happened or stuff like you're talking about. It's usually because someone did something that is disappointing.
Oh, I hear you. And it's not... Well, like, I don't remember the last time I felt disappointed.
Probably the last time you read some news article about Zelensky.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, when he refused the recent peace treaty, that was a little disappointing. But yeah, I don't know. Trump has all this confidence that it's going to work out, and then, well, we'll see what happens.
Positive attitude.
Yeah, positive attitude is good. Positive attitude is good, and I appreciate the work that he's doing and trying to resolve that conflict, and Elon's support as well. Yeah, ending the slaughter. That's great. That's great news. And they defunded USAID. Defunding USAID made a huge difference online. Like, I used to have to argue against pro-war, bloodthirsty people every day. Now, never. I never have to do it anymore. No one.
Yeah, the bots are gone.
The bots are gone, and the people who were funded by USAID promoting the war are gone. And so it's like a totally different... It's a little bit more boring now, because they don't have as much pushback.
Did you post that article about the paid protesters?
I don't know.
On Facebook?
No, it's probably somebody else.
Because I watched the whole thing. It was somebody posted it because that's the reason I watched the whole thing. It was like a 20-minute video, and it was this lady going through the whole process of how she got contacted, who paid her, how much they paid her, the bus ticket that she got, where she got sent to. They got food given to them and everything. And they were asked if they did it again, they got more money. It was like a pyramid scheme.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
If you brought people with you, you got paid more money.
Yeah. 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 I've heard about this for years. Yeah. And usually people associated with George Soros. And I know one time there was a pallet of bricks that showed up, and they tracked it down to Bill Gates. Bill Gates had brought a pallet of bricks to a BLM protest.
What? Wonderful.
Yeah. So that happened too. And it's this various catalysts. And so when the choice of for service to others has been absolute, there's a knowing that comes. It is a knowing that transcends planning. It is a knowing that includes the awareness that you really do not have control over anything but your own desires, your own will, and your own persistence. Yeah. And so yeah, I was describing those, like the parking thing, and then also there's the rain thing. So oftentimes, like sometimes it might be raining hard, and then but I go out and then it stops raining, like at least while I'm out there, and then I go inside and it starts raining hard again. So that's another one of those blessings, from the Lord that I appreciate. And I feel like those are signs that I'm on the right track, because I mean sometimes it goes the other way. So sometimes I go out, it starts raining really hard. But
sometimes you're the fly, sometimes you're the windshield.
Yeah, exactly. So but it's been months since something like that has happened. So I think in the recent times, in the recent weeks anyways, I've been on the right track of love and kindness and service. And I'm seeing the signs that I'm on the right track anyways. I've been planting trees, and so that's helping the planet as well. What was it called? Restitution? I know. Restitution. Trees. I don't know if they mentioned trees, but yeah, they mentioned helping your planet. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Let's see if we have time. Oh no, it's 9 o'clock, guys. So, but I think, was there last one more last one? Space Pirates. Here, this is the very last one. And then I'll leave you guys to your after chat. I don't know if you guys are still doing that.
Law of One after hours.
After hours. Yeah. Space Pirates. Meanwhile, okay, here we go. I don't know if this was actually a channeling. I think this is just a lecture. This is a lecture by Carla. Okay, so we'll just read this little bit here. Go. Here you go, Dan.
Here we are in the density of choice. We're at the end of a long line of empires. We're not the first, and if what Quill called the space pirates would have their way, we wouldn't be last. What they had in mind was for us just to keep fighting forever and keep learning how to better heal ourselves so we can patch up the soldiers, then send them right back to fight some more. Meanwhile, the space pirates are feasting off of the terror, the anger, the hostility, and all those dark emotions embarrassed for it. We haven't. Can we keep reading?
Sure. Let's give it a chance, anyways.
We haven't progressed as a nation state beyond Babylon. We're still protecting our clan, defending our clan, and protecting our national resources. The arc of instability that the Bush presidency goes through South America, North Africa, all of what we would call the third world, and ends up in China, and it neatly covers every country that has significant natural resources that we might want. We might as well call it the arc of natural resources. What we need to do for ourselves is to realize the service to self aspect of war. It's hard because we're used to empires. Those of us who were originally Martians lost our planet to habitation in what we felt was a just war. So did Deneb and Atlantis. So did Babylon, the Roman Empire, the Empire of the Khans. The Holy Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, which went through two Reichs, then the Third Reich, the German Empire. And then I would say we could easily call ourselves and Britain the Fourth Reich, or the American British Empire. It was the British first, the British Empire upon whom the sun never sets. And that's only funny if you like tennis.
Okay. Oh, here. We might as well do this last paragraph.
And then, of course, America took over and became the top dog. Now we have carved out not part, now we have carved out not part of the world, but the whole world for our oyster. And apparently we need everything that the world has in order to keep on with our lifestyle for another 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. Not long.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. So, yeah. I don't know if anyone has any comments on that, but I guess it's fairly straightforward. Ed?
Like, it's actually really weird you said that. I only actually found out the other day that the Third Reich was like the next step from the like Holy Catholic Empire or whatever, and like the first
Holy
Reich
Roman
was,
Empire.
Yeah, like the Holy Roman Empire. The First Reich was like Rome, essentially.
Well, it was the Holy Roman Empire. So basically what happened was there was a pope in Rome that put a crown on the head of Charlemagne, who was a German king. And that was the inauguration of the Holy Roman Empire. And so the Germans believed that from this point onwards, the Roman Empire moved from Italy to Germany. And so they were the Holy Roman Empire. And the Holy Roman Empire was based in Germany, or what we now call Germany. Back then it was, it had different names. It was the Holy Roman Empire. Yeah, similarly, Russia considers itself to be an inheritor of empire from, what do you call it? Well, there was Vladimir the Great. He married a Byzantine princess, and then Byzantine, the whole, Byzantine things, they fell to the Muslims. I don't remember when, like 1500s, something like that. And then after that point, Ivan the Terrible falsified some documents and said that, well, of course, he didn't claim it were falsified, and maybe the Russians still believe they were real. But anyways, that he found some kind of letter anyways. There's some debate on whether it was legitimate, that recognizing him as an emperor. And so the Russians believe they inherited the Orthodox kingdom, or the Orthodox Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Roman Empire. So we've got like two Roman empires. And then, the Americans also believe that they are inheritors of the Roman Empire. That's why they have the eagle as their standard, and lots of, related symbology.
Isn't that part of the reason why they massacred the Russian royal family in the revolution? To get rid of that blood, to get rid of that lineage?
That was the Romanovs. So the Romanovs were so Ivan the Terrible, he always had a toothache, and he was a violent wretch due to too much time in urban environments. And when he was growing up, he was heavily traumatized.
Blame it on the cities.
Well, this is the fact. They had been in these cities for several hundred years. I don't know, like he was like probably 10th generation or whatever, or 12th. And he ended up being so violent, he killed his own son, who was the only heir to the throne. And that led to what was called the Time of the Troubles, a succession crisis, because there was nobody to inherit the throne. And that's when the Romanovs took over. And the Romanovs are Western Europeans. They're British. And so they ruled, and then there was Peter the beard shaver came along, and he increased the connection with Europe, and then basically By the time of Nikolai II, you like they were twins. Basically, the Roman, the English, the King of Britain and the King of Russia looked like twins. That's how closely genetically related they were. But the reason that the Bolsheviks managed to succeed was because they weren't supplying enough food for the people. It took 70% of a person's income to feed themselves, and so people were like, and this always leads to revolution. Whenever a king is unable to feed his people, the people will revolt, and everyone will support them, and then the new order. If there's a bunch of people die, and then they're able to feed everybody again. So if you're in a position of power, you got to prioritize feeding the people. But in order to search for density, it's also you got to love all beings. So you got to keep that in perspective too. All right. Any last comments before we close? No. All right. So, as I found you, we leave you in the love and in the light of the infinite creator, the one infinite creator, the one within you. Oh, go forth therefore rejoicing in the power and in the peace, the infinite power and the infinite peace of the infinite creator within you and all around you, my friends. Adonai, Adonai Vasabragas. All right, I ended the stream.